Welcome back, Trek fans. Today we're diving into Star Trek Strange New World Season 2, Episode 3, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. Time travel, alternate realities, and a surprising team-up put La'an, Nooney, and Singh front and center in one of the season's most emotional and thrilling episodes. Let's get straight into it. First thing that I want to talk about is the temporal twist. How did the time travel elements in this episode reshape your understanding of James T. Kirk's character? And I definitely want to start with Corey first.
So, Kirk has always been that guy in for me for Star Trek, but I really am starting to really kind of like the character, the pre-Enterprise character of Kirk, because he's funny, he's that guy, but he's not quite that guy yet in the standard of Captain Pike, right? He may be brash and etc., but it kind of gives you a glimpse into who he was a little bit prior to everything that we know him from. If I'm to be realistic, in my approach to how I think about this show, this episode actually made me start to like Singh. This was the episode where I was like, okay, because at first, I wasn't feeling her. I didn't care what happened to her. But on this episode, when she started to catch feelings, right? I know what y'all saying, but I don't care. When she started to catch feelings, and the depth of her interactions with Kirk, right? It opened up for me, for her character. I know you asked about Kirk, but it's kind of tied together in this episode.
All right, next question is going to yeah. What do you think his journey, meaning James T. Kirk, what do you think his journey through time reveals about his leadership style? And I really want to ask you that because for you, this is like your first entree into him, right? So what does it reveal about his leadership style?
So ask the question one more time for me.
Mm-hmm. What do you think his journey through time reveals about his leadership style?
So the leadership style that I'm seeing from this Kirk, he kind of leads with sarcasm a bit for me. So there's a little bit of lightheartedness there, but also his willingness to kind of be willing to take a bullet, if you will, for Singh, lets me know that, okay, I don't know if I'm going to put him up there with Pike yet. I'm not as invested in Kirk yet, but I feel that his leadership style is one that warrants him being in the seat, if that makes sense. Yeah. Because you go through time travel to a time that you're not familiar with, obviously, and the decisions that you make, first of all, we need currency, okay? And so you used a skill set that you have, because at first I'm like, why is he the captain? I don't understand. What is going on? Like, where's Pike? Bring him back. The dude from Vampire Diaries, Stefan Salvatore, what are you doing here? Like,
by the way, he's still a twink. How are you 40 years old and still a twink?
Still a twink. I don't know what he did, but I need to get some of that too.
But to some degree, the wisdom is still there, although he comes off a little bit young and, kind of lighthearted, even in a way that he approaches things. But so his travel through time, to me, I actually saw a little bit of maturity there, because, okay, you were willing to get on the chess tables and gamble to make sure y'all can get money or whatever, and you were willing to put your life on the line. So your leadership style, to me, is a style that I wouldn't mind getting behind, so to speak.
Okay, so Corey, so now we talked a little bit about James Kirk. Let's talk about La'an, the person that is starting to grow on with. So La'an faced significant challenges during this particular episode. How do you think her experiences with Kirk and the alternate timeline influenced her character development?
So specifically, I think that, it softened her to an extent, right? And it kind of healed some of that trauma or the feelings of responsibility that she has because of who her namesake is and her family is, and the responsibility that lineage has and what it has done to the universe, so to speak, right? And I think this experience with Kirk in this alternate timeline kind of gives her a perspective, but then also it really kind of pushes her to get past that, right? It softens her to just a little bit, where she's a little bit more open to her crewmates when she gets back on the other side of the timeline. I just really love this episode. I really did.
So, Elia, what lessons do you think La'an, took away from her encounters?
So, one of the lessons that most people should learn with time travel is don't change anything. Not for real. You had the opportunity to take out your ancestor and you didn't,
Right.
because of ultimately what it was done. I think another lesson that she learned is be in the moment. Things are going to be unpredictable. You cannot control everything. And to Corey's point, we did see her soften a bit. So even after she returned and things kind of went back to homeostasis, she still reached out to Kirk. So that shows her being more human. And so I appreciated that. Like, okay, you got feelings. You're not as hard as you coming off. So that was another thing, being in the moment. And what else? I think she learned to lean on other people a little bit more. She used to being in control quite a bit. And so this required her to actually let someone else step up to the plate and use their talents as well, even down to reaching out to our crazy friend.
Paleo?
Huh?
Paleo?
Yes. Yes. So, yeah.
Okay. For those of you all who are watching us, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to share your thoughts in these questions and let the discussions unfold. Corey, since she mentioned Paleo, let's talk about Palea's wisdom. All right. So Palea often provides a unique perspective. How did her insights in this episode help guide the crew through their time-related dilemmas?
Honestly, I'm drawing a blank on that piece of the story. So,
well, then let's go to Elia.
She was stealing people's stuff kind of over and over again. And I know this is like an aside, but I love Pelia because Pelia is a klepto of artifacts. And so you
love to steal an artifact, baby.
Right. You done stole this stuff from the Louvre in Paris, and so you're harboring on all those things. And so Pelia, she's so witty. But I love the fact that she leaned on her. So Pelia was very, very important in this episode because she's not able to explain all the science stuff in the moment, but she knows just enough to kind of give Singh an idea of what to do in order to extract whatever from the watch. And I'm not using the science terminology here, but
right.
Because she's such a klepto and a hoarder and doesn't know how to
in all the timelines, remind you, in all the timelines, she is that person. Yes. So, they had to hunt to find her in order to, and the fact that she's still that same character all timelines.
A hoarder, but she had what you needed. And so I appreciated that. Like, I can't explain it.
You're a crackhead.
Wait, what you say?
She remind me of a crackhead.
Just rolling down the street.
You know the ones that always got a little bit of what you need. For $5, $10. But she whether it's a wipe or a TV or a socket wrench, they got it for $5.
Hey, but she helped move things along. She had what was needed with her hoarding and klepto skills. That watch.
I have a question for you. Do you think when she interacted with the Enterprise, do you think she knew, let me attach myself to these people. Otherwise, they won't know that I even exist. Ooh, I got you stumped. I'm talking about episode 1. I'm talking about episode 1. So going back to episode 1. Yeah.
So
I think you want to take it or you want me to take it?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think that she ultimately has grown tired of the anonymity to an extent, right? And she wants to A, break free, but B, she wants to kind of have other experiences, right? The uniqueness and the weirdness of that crew, I think, drew her to them. And in essence, that's the reason why she chose them, because she knew that it was going to be a great adventure or a great ride for her, right? And whether that led her to steal more stuff or whatever, she had already, I think she stated that she'd been around for so long, she'd seen everything. But the fact that the uniqueness of that crew is what drew her to them. I can't remember exactly what she said, but something along those lines.
Okay. All right. Oh, yeah. You had thoughts?
No, simply just as surface level, as Pelia's been around so long, she's seen a lot of things. And so I do feel like it was a strategic move to attach herself to Starfleet. She's an asset to them, but it also could feel like a home to her.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. All right.
And a chance to explore the world, to explore the universe in different capacities and different ways in which she's done, even in her, how long they said she's been around, 1,000 years? Or something or longer.
I think she was on Earth for I think she was on Earth for 1,000 years, but
1,000 years.
But she's like 3,000 years old, something like that. I don't remember exactly. All right, so Corey, earlier you were talking about Khan, Noonien Singh, when you mentioned La'an's family's past. All right, so considering Khan's impact on Earth's future, how was this mentioned in this particular episode, and how did it affect your understanding of the timeline's stakes?
So it kind of, when that discovery moment, when that realization hit her, it's kind of where I kind of, and I don't recall, it's been a year since I watched this, but it's almost like when she realized who was at stake when they reached the door or whatever they were going into. I don't remember where they were. And she kind of got in and she saw and she felt is when that moment became real to her. But also I will say is that the explanation of what that meant to Kirk, etc., is kind of what really moves it forward in terms of, oh, this makes sense to why she is this way, right? Because prior they hadn't really given any sort of explanation into the background and step in general terms about who she was. Now, fans of the show kind of get a general idea of the Star Trek universe, kind of have a general idea of her lineage. But at this point, I don't think for Strange New Worlds had they really done an exposition into who her family was and what the creation of the weapons and et cetera, and the things that result as a result of that, what that does to the universe, so to speak. I answered the question in a roundabout way, but it's
You did. All right, so Elia, I want to talk about character dynamics. How did the interactions between Kirk, La'an, and Pelia highlight the themes of trust and cooperation?
Okay, so you have La'an, who doesn't trust anyone. You have Pelia, who's been around and she's skeptical of everything. And then you have Kirk, that's like, okay, new, at least to me, as a leader. So first of all, trust no one. I feel like none of them, not one of them, trusted anyone. Because to trust is to be vulnerable, and to be vulnerable is a death sentence. And so For how I see all of them, the commonality is they all lack trust. You have Kirk, like, who are you? Why are you on my ship? Why are you here? Initially, you have La'an, like, I'm gonna go on this unilateral mission. I'm upset that you even got sucked into this timeline with me, so I'm annoyed. And then you have Pelia, like, you giving me these vague statements about you have these secrets about me. Okay, what secrets? You don't know anything. You know, you need to be more specific. So you have all three of them that don't trust. There's that. However, bigger picture. So I feel like they're all humbled individually and learn to trust because of the bigger picture, that being having to move the timeline along. And so I don't have the fancy knowledge because I am still new to Star Trek, but just for how I see it, ultimately you have a theme of you're going to have to learn to trust someone.
But check this out. Even though you don't have that background knowledge, you captured it all. You definitely captured it all. So that's why, number one, let me just go back. You don't have to watch Star Trek from the beginning in order to, like, get immersed into it, and you're picking up on all of the themes. And I just, that's my way of saying keep watching.
And there are many, I'm sure, that we could address in this particular episode. However,
there are a lot of themes.
Right. But because I'm caught off guard, I have to go for what my brain automatically defaults to. But ultimately, that theme of working as a team, in order to accomplish a goal or whatever, is something that they all had to learn. That's not something that's innate for any of them for a myriad of reasons. And I'm sure I'll uncover even more as I continue to watch. But with Sing, because I've seen her the most across the episodes, I can understand why it's difficult for her to trust in particular. And she kind of has, even though she works for Starfleet, she has this ingrained, like, lone wolf mentality and this sense of duty that I'm the one that's responsible for making sure everything is going to get resolved. And, yeah.
Okay. All right. Corey, still on, that, we're still dealing with character dynamics. What did you think about the chemistry between La'an and Kirk as they navigated the challenges together?
So I kind of was surprised in a way, but then maybe not, and because I think when they opened up to each other at the hotel is kind of when I was like, oh, okay, right? And they start to talk about, relate to each other by describing the differences of their world. Kirk talking about, the state of a Federation-less world, and then she's talking, relating her own experiences. It kind of mirrors each other in a way, but different. And at that point is when you start to see the care factor. And then through the story itself and the adventure, quote unquote, much like many of these other shows, they really start to kind of look after each other and really take care of each other in a way. And, the kiss, of course, the kiss. So, I mean, they really kind of, in this short period of time, because it's only it's only been a few days, but sometimes but then ultimately what happens, right, is really what draws it to a head as relates to the relationship and what happens to Kirk towards the end of the episode, and you have to feel for her at that moment, right?
Okay. So, do you think we're still dealing with these moral dilemmas? Do you believe altering time is ever justified?
Ooh. That's a doozy. Do I feel like altering time is ever justified? I'm gonna say no, because it's nearly impossible to do that without it having some selfish type of basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that altering time is ever going to be justified, because where it may serve this person or this group it's gonna do something to negatively impact someone else. So just the moral implications of altering time, leave it alone. Leave it alone, leave it alone. So yeah, I don't. Now, would I do it? There's an entirely different question. But should it be done? No.
Not to mention those unintended consequences. Corey, what are your thoughts about that? Do you believe altering time is ever justified?
Oh, when you said that, I immediately thought back to some of the points in history where we wish we could go back to and change the course of history.
How many bodies I would scratch off my list?
Or even just in the grand scheme of humanity, thinking about Hitler and the assassination of Dr. King, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, Robert Kennedy, those pivotal moments. But in effect, those moments are kind of what brought us to certain parts of the human story. And without those points, I don't know if we would have got there the same way. So I'm going to lean with no from a global standpoint. But if we're talking about would I date this person or meet this person or whatever.
If you hadn't dated those person, it might not have led you to the person that you're with right now.
And that's he and I talked about this like maybe 6 or 7 months. And I said to him, I probably would change some things, but then he was like, but then we would have never met. I said, you don't know that, because maybe we just would have met and been different in different places. And then that went into our discussion of soulmates and how do we feel about that as a whole. And, I think ultimately, that people are meant to be, and that there's degrees of soulmates and that you have multiple soulmates in this space that we inhabit, and you have a chance to meet them across the journey. But I said all that to say, I think what will happen will happen. What is meant to happen will happen.
Sera.
Yeah, what is meant to happen will happen. But I also think that no, I would not. I don't think I would.
Okay.
I want to hear from you. Because you've been throwing these curveballs.
I know. I had to go back in the recesses of my mind to figure out.
My mind always on recess.
I think in the world of Star Trek, no, you don't change time. However, selfishly, would I have? Yes, I would. I would have changed a whole lot about my history. Let's keep it moving. All right, so let's talk future implications, even though we're kind of sort of talking about future implications right now. What implications do you think this episode has for the broader Star Trek universe, especially regarding the potential return of Khan? I want to start with Corey, and the reason I want to start with Corey is because his knowledge of Star Trek is a bit more vast.
So I think that this particular episode is going to, at some point in time, get us to that point of the story where, because Khan is one of Kirk's biggest enemies, right? In the lore of the series, right? They have there's movies and et cetera about how crazy Khan is, right? And his goals. I think this will kind of give a little bit more development to the Strange New Worlds storyline by opening up another avenue for them to explore, because that could be a series in of its own, exploring Khan and Kirk and all of that could, or even continuing it in Strange New Worlds by leaving us away from Pike and going into the earlier part of Kirk's leadership of the Enterprise to a certain extent. I just think it opens up the doors for us in terms of the story and gives us even more story to kind of get into. And then there's some novels and the graphic novels and the comic books and all this other kind of stuff, and the books that have expounded upon some of these things a little bit more, that gives us even a little bit more detail. So I think it opens up the doors.
Okay. All right. Yeah, this question might be a little difficult for you, but I hope that you're able to extrapolate upon what you've seen thus far. How do you envision his role evolving in future storylines?
And his
either Khan or Kirk.
Okay. How do I envision either Khan or Kirk's role developing in future episodes?
Mhm.
So I would envision that, first of all, again, just based on what I've seen, Kirk is not a character that's been in every episode of this season of Strange New Worlds or the previous. Hadn't been a constant. And so that's one. So I envision that Kirk would become more. I guess I'm gonna keep leaning on Pike because that's where my knowledge base is, because I'm just in Strange New Worlds. I envision him being more visible, and so to speak, across the other episodes. And when I say visible, I mean getting to see more of his leadership. And I don't know if he becomes actually part of Starfleet or
What do you mean?
Kirk,
Like,
because he's
Kirk.
Oh, Kirk, yes. Kirk
okay.
does.
So I guess more visibility for lack of depth, because again, I'm novice, so I'm trying to work my way through understanding a lot of the pieces, and being a leader that the crew can actually trust. As far as Khan, just watching him in this episode as a child, and saying, are you here to kill me or what have you? I'm wondering, as things play out, is there any recollection of that even happening because of what happened with the timeline? I don't know. Did that in any way, shape, or form alter who he's going to become as a person? Is he going to be just as awful as everyone remembers, or is it going to soften him a little bit at all? I don't know. So I'm just wondering. I know there's no doubt in my mind that Khan is still going to show up as a villain, especially just picking up on, the clues that I've been getting, and the Wrath of Khan. I don't know why that's in my head, but I remember. Yeah, I remember hearing that somewhere. Don't remember where. So he's still going to be a villain, but is it going to be to the same degree had Noonan Singh not intervened in the past? So I guess I just have more questions as I continue to go down the rabbit hole. But I do envision seeing more of Kirk in a great leadership role, and just more curious about what kind of villain will Khan be.
So, Corey, you have the same question. Let's sum it up, because this is the last one. How do you envision his role evolving in future storylines?
I think we're going to see like the periodic growth of Khan. I think there's always going to be, as we get more seasons of the show, I'm going to have hope that we may get 6 to 7 seasons of this show, maybe, right? And if we get that many, let's just say we just get 5 over the course of the next 2, I anticipate at least there being some sort of incursion with or some time jumps, etc., and we get more incursions of the developing Khan, right? And the nature of his conflict with Kirk at some point in time, or at the end of the show, we get to a point where Khan is adult, teen, or whatever, because he's actually older than Kirk, it seems, through the Star Trek mythos, because his character looks older, so you assume that he's older than Kirk. Or you assume that he's aged in a certain way. I don't know, because it's a little bit different how they've done it. I think that he's going to grow with the show, or I hope he does, because I think that's an excellent way for them to kind of continue this prequel story thing that they're doing, without really changing too much of the mythos of Enterprise and what we know about the story, because they can only do so much, because there's established lore that they cannot really go against, or Star Trek fans would flip. And like it's it's precedented things that happen, and lore that has to happen. I mean, this universe is what, 60, 70 years old now?
Well, closer to 60.
So there's a lot of material and lore that has been established that you can't upend. So I'm curious to see how they now even navigate that going forward.
Okay. Well, That was our last question. Thank you all so very much for watching us. Feel free to share your thoughts on these questions and let the discussions unfold. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, live long and prosper, my loves.
Look at you.